Article 18, torture. Secretly authorizing and encouraging the use of torture against captives in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places as a matter of official policy in his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has, both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates, together with the Vice President, violated United States and international law and the U.S. Constitution by secretly authorizing and encouraging the use of torture against captives in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iraq in connection with the so-called War on Terror. In violation of the Constitution, U.S. law, the Geneva Conventions to which the U.S. is signatory, and in violation of basic human rights, torture has been authorized by the President and his administration as official policy. Waterboarding, beatings, faked executions, confinement in extreme cold or extreme heat, prolonged enforcement of painful stress positions, sleep deprivation, sexual humiliation, and the defiling of religious articles have been practiced and exposed as routine at Guantanamo, at Abu Ghraib prison, and other U.S. detention sites in Iraq, and at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. The President, besides bearing responsibility for authorizing the use of torture, also as Commander-in-Chief, bears ultimate responsibility for the failure to halt these practices and to punish those responsible once they were exposed. The administration has sought to claim the abuse of captives is not torture by redefining torture. On August 1st, 2002, a memorandum from the administration's Office of Legal Counsel, J.S. Bybee, addressed to the White House counsel, Alberto R. Gonzalez, concluded that to constitute torture, any pain inflicted must be akin to that accompanying, quote, serious physical injury, such as organ failure, impairment of bodily function, or even death. Unquote. The memorandum went on to state that even should an act constitute torture, under that minimal definition, it might still be permissible if applied to, quote, interrogations undertaken pursuant to the President's Commander-in-Chief powers, unquote. The memorandum further asserted that necessity, quote, necessity, or self-defense could provide justifications that would eliminate any criminal liability, unquote. This effort to redefine torture by calling certain practices simply enhanced interrogation techniques flies in the face of the Third Geneva Convention relating to the treatment of prisoners of war, which states that, and I quote, no physical or mental torture nor any form of coercion may be inflicted on prisoners of war to secure from them information of any kind whatsoever. Prisoners of war who refuse to answer may not be threatened, insulted, or exposed to any unpleasant or disadvantageous treatment of any kind, unquote. Torture is further prohibited by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the paramount international human rights statement adopted unanimously by the United Nations General Assembly, including the United States, in 1948. Torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment is also prohibited by international treaties ratified by the United States. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the Covenant Against Torture and other cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. When the Congress, in the Defense Authorization Act of 2006, overwhelmingly passed a measure banning torture and sent it to the President's desk for signature, the President, who together with his Vice President had fought hard to block passage of the amendment, signed it, but then quietly appended a signing statement in which he pointedly asserted that as Commander-in-Chief, he was not bound to obey its strictures. The administration's encouragement of and failure to prevent torture of American captives in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and in the battle against terrorism has undermined the rule of law in the United States and in the U.S. military, and has seriously damaged both the effort to combat global terrorism and, more broadly, has damaged America's image abroad. In his effort to hide torture by U.S. military forces and the CIA, the President has defied Congress and has lied to the American people, repeatedly claiming that the U.S. does not torture. In all these actions and decisions, in violation of U.S. and international law, President George Bush has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as President and Commander-in-Chief, and subversive of constitutional government, to the prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, George W. Bush, by such conduct, is guilty of an impeachable offense, warranting removal from office. Article 19. Rendition. Kidnapping people and taking them against their will to black sites located in other nations, including nations known to practice torture. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has, both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates, together with the Vice President, violated United States and international law and the U.S. Constitution by kidnapping people and renditioning them to black sites located in other nations, including nations known to practice torture. The President has publicly admitted that since the 9/11 attacks in 2001, the U.S. has been kidnapping and transporting against the will of the subject, renditioning, in its so-called war on terror, even people captured by U.S. personnel in friendly nations like Sweden, Germany, Macedonia, and Italy, and ferrying them to places like Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, and to prisons operated in Eastern European countries, African countries, and Middle Eastern countries, where security forces are known to practice